Hello folks and welcome. Linux Mint 22.1 Cinnamon. Having a little bit more fun with terminal. I'm going to show you how you can output the terminal calendar command to your benefit, and you can make a homemade calendar, for instance, complete with photographs and even lines if you need to write something. So if you can picture this in January through December, you can staple, 3-hole punch, put your own photos. You can rearrange the furniture in here, all from the input from terminal. So last week I showed a lot of derivatives of using the cal and ncal command. So I'm going to carry it a little further today. I'm going to show you how you can output that stuff from terminal into a file that will be placed in here. So let me just get this ball of wax going. Filming in 1080, subscription logo is in the corner. All right, Hazel is our made-up name user for today. If you're unfamiliar with terminal, you can also enlarge that rather quickly with Control-Shift+++, and that plus key is normally found near your backspace. The only thing I altered about this terminal box is it will display yellow instead of white. So this is the command that I'm going to talk about. Now generally this should be installed on Linux Mint Cinnamon. If not, type in sudo apt install ncal and it will install ncal and cal if it's not installed. Alright, using a standard computer mouse, I use the scroll wheel when I need to read stuff. I'll just give you a couple of quick tips from last week when I was doing this, and then we're going to generate. The output will now be placed into files. So I'll give you a couple of examples of that. So if you type in cal, you should see that. If not, it'll probably suggest to do a sudo space apt space install ncal. Okay, so ncal looks like this, and cal is on the top. We're going to send that directly into a file in a second. Now, outputting information to a file, some of you folks may not be familiar with. So let me punch up clear and give you an example of when you use ls. ls is a command that we generally just look at our home folder, right? But you also have hidden files in here. If I do an ls space dash alpha or a, it will also display this information. How would you like to put that in a text file? That's really easy to do, actually. If you type in ls dash a space, find that symbol right there. Look at your right shift key. What is to the left of it is usually a question mark. What is next to that key is the period and that symbol. Normally you'll just hit shift and that'll produce that symbol. Now I generally either put a space or no space in a lot of cases. So I'm going to type in home.txt. That's the name of the file I'm going to take this outputted command into. It's redirecting the output from your screen into an actual text file. There's currently only this file here that is different from others. I'll minimize that and hit enter. You won't see any acknowledgments, but that file just got generated right there. And that's the list of my home folder contents, including the hidden stuff. If you don't want to do it with the hidden stuff, then I would remove the dash A, and I'm going to replace the same file because I'm not changing its name. So you got to be careful with that if you have existing files. I just outputted the straight ls command into that same file. And that's what we have. Backup and home.txt, you can see it right there. And the February 26 ODT is right there. Now let's get back to what I really wanted to show you today, and having a little fun kind of making these kind of calendars. And again, we can make this information larger or smaller. We can also import photos. So let me just get this out of the way. and I'm going to throw it into my junk, which is already there. So I just created a folder to throw this kind of stuff in there. So the cal command, let's punch up clear. Couple of interesting features with it. You can do cal-3 for 3 months, or ncal space -3 also for 3 months. But you can also display the full year. So if I type in cal and this year 2025 all by its lonesome, I get a full output of January through December of the calendar year 2025. I can also do that with other years. I can make it for next year, the following year, or way in time or way back in time. If I use the same command, punching up clear first, upper arrow key to repeat these commands, I can take my left arrow key, scroll over here and put an N in front of that C, and then hit enter, and you'll see it in this format. June 7 is highlighted because that's today's date. How would you like to output this to a file? All right, it's very simple. Upper arrow key produces the same thing I just typed in, ncal space 2025 space, that symbol, which is redirect the output to a file. 2025 dot, okay, how about if we do .odt, or maybe doc, or even text, doesn't matter. So the only thing you got to be careful if you have existing files with the same names, it will override them without asking. But I'm outputting the ncal command, which you're currently seeing here, but I'm redoing the command without you having seen it on the screen and putting it into a document called 2025.doc. It's as simple as doing that. And there it is right there. Now what can you do with this? Well, I can do a Control A and increase the font size. I can also change the font itself. Control P, I can also print that. This is an 8.5 by 11. And yes, this is slightly blurry if you're looking at that. It's just a print preview. Now let's do something practical with this, making a poor man's calendar. I'll toss that over here in my junk. What I'm going to do is punch up clear and give you a couple of tips on how to play with this. We're going to add some of our own photos after we also resize the fonts. Now we can also use ncal to do this with, but I'm going to use cal because here's the difference again. Calendar is displayed this way versus this way. Your preference, but I'm going to pick cal. All right, just because I can. So a cal space, I want January through December of 2026 because I'm making a calendar for next year. So we're doing something productive. We can put in a 1 for January, or you can put in JAN. Personally, I just like to use numbers. It's faster. But I need a year though, because if I don't designate that, it will be this year. So I want to put 2026 in there. But I'm going to redirect the output without displaying it on the screen directly into the file manager, and I'm going to call that one January 2026 .doc. We'll just leave it in that format. I could do ODT and I could do text. But since I'm going to bring this up a little bit later in the LibreOffice, I'm going to add some photos to it. So that's why I'm making separate documents. That's the first one. I know. I'll just let you briefly see what I just created. It's sitting right here. We'll deal with opening that later. Upper arrow key on your keyboard to repeat the same command. Taking your left arrow, scroll over and replace that 1 with a 2 and remove the 1, but leave the spaces, and don't forget to change the tail end because otherwise it creates another file called January 2026. That'll override the first one. You don't want that. Why am I doing it this way? For productivity reasons. I'm trying to do this in a very fast manner so I can create a whole bunch of these. That's the second one. Repeat. I'm going to put in a number 3. delete the 2, replace that with March. MAR is close enough. And then I'll do one more with number 4. So that would be April. And then we can just think about the rest of the month later. Okay? So you can do this rather quickly if you make 12 of these. And you can make completely different calendars, pages with different photographs on them. That's close enough. All right. Now I'm going to leave Terminal open. I'm just going to minimize it and open up the file manager, and you'll see 4 files here, starting with January, February, March, and April. So let's open up January 1st. They're all 184 bytes currently because I don't have any photographs in there just yet. So this is a size 10. I know it looks small, but if I hold down the control key and scroll up, I haven't changed the font yet. But now I will. So you can take your mouse and highlight that, or you can use Control A as an alpha. So let's grab a different number. Let's try 24. Now it's quite big. You can see the end part right here, and this the safe zone for printing is right about in this area. So at this point I'm going to leave it at 24 and bring in a photograph. Insert an image, in other words. And I have all kinds of choices. So we can do pictures of our kids, the family, nature, whatever it might be. I have the Eiffel Tower here. Holding down the control key, scrolling backwards, I just want to see all the edges. Now I'm going to click in the corner and drag down to make it smaller. And you can probably tell what I'm about to do. Okay, that's a safe zone for me to print. I can enlarge that. I can also move this into the middle, make the picture on the top, put the picture on the side, which there's so many ways to manipulate this. But the data came from Terminal. This came from my photo part of the file manager, in other words, pictures. So I'm going to be using some of these. I don't have any humans, but hopefully you can understand you can substitute that with your pets, your friends, whatever it might be. Now, if you want to add some stuff in the white zone, as they say, with some dashed lines, you can certainly do that rather easily. So you can write in these dashed lines. If you want to make them large, you can certainly do that. I'm just giving you some ideas to play with, to create calendars. So I'm just working on January 2026. So we're going to save that, save as, and not text. We're going to use doc and save it as the same file. Overwrite it, yes, and use Word 97, blah, blah, blah. If you want to check it real quick, we can look at it again, if you like, and then we'll move to the next one. Because why am I creating 12 of these if I'm creating a calendar? So we can change the pictures on every one of these instead of working from one document. It's a lot easier to do this if you got 12 pages worth. All right, Control A, 24 font is what I selected earlier. And let's grab a new photograph, because we're going to make this all different. Now, you may not agree on this one. It's a mushroom, but nonetheless, it's my wife loves mushrooms, so we're going to use the mushroom. All right, now if I throw that in there, you can see that it's kind of bleeding off the edge, because if this is the trim point, maybe I need to move that over, but now my calendar got shifted. So sometimes you need to do something with these photographs that will make it small, depending on the size of the picture. All right, and then again, you can also put the dashes in here in case you want to write something in there. I'm just going to put one line there. And again, we're going to do the same thing, save as, convert that to a .doc using the same format and the same name of the file. We're just overwriting it, is all we're doing here. Okay, closing that one. So now I have January, and I can print this, Control P. And I have plenty of room to put 3 holes in here if I wanted to put that in a binder, or I can just use staples. Even 12 pages worth of paper, you can staple that usually fairly easily. This is a poor man's calendar. but it can have photographs in there, and you can do that. So February is done now with that mushroom. Again, you may not agree on the picture, but I'm just using arbitrary stuff. Let's go to March and Control A. Select that to a 24 to keep it consistent. And grab another image. Insert. Not sure what I have here. We got some nature photos. Let's do this waterfall. It's a vertical one. All right, so I'm into nature. I don't know about you, but I love to go on hikes. And I'm sure plenty of you folks also. Is that still too big? Yes, slightly. So I'm gonna leave it there just for a second and just reduce it enough. And I'm doing all this stuff on the fly. This could be pictures of your kids, your friends, your pets, whatever. All I'm doing is showing you different things to think about. If you want to put large spaces in there, you can. What's it going to look like on the printer output? Control P. That's what it's going to look like. Okay. So all you got to do is save these. And you'll do 12 of them. So save as. And in my case, I'm going to leave the same thing, March 2026. Definitely don't want that as a text file. We want maybe something else in here. So I'll just, I've been using this one, so I might as well continue using it. All right, and then you can go through and step through 12 of these. Keep in mind my terminal box is still open. And if I use the upper arrow key, I can change that to a 5 to create a new file. And don't forget to change the tail end. Now I got an extra space in there, so I'll get rid of the space. And then make sure you change that, because if you put in 2 Aprils, it'll override the previous one. We want May on this one. So it creates a new file. And you'll see it. There's May right there. They all started at 184 bytes. And this one hasn't been converted yet. I can tell that by the sizes of these. Now the March one has a big picture. That's why it's very big. But you're just doing this for temporary reasons, maybe. But you're not stuck with this. You can make calendars for 2027, 2028, or even the previous years if you like. Let me give you some more examples of this command. I'll punch up clear now that you've got an idea what you can do with this command, and output that into a file. The cal command can actually be used to look up your birthday also, and you can find out what day of the week you were born on. So I have a friend that was born in February of 1972. Okay, that was a leap year. In other words, February had 29 days in it. That friend was born on the 10th. That friend was born on a Thursday. So if that's your birthday month for 1972, what is the date of your birthday? Let's say it's the 23rd. Well, then you were born on a Wednesday. You can have all kinds of fun with your friends and family. You can also look at calendar dates from the past. I'll pick on the same month with maybe 1272. That was also a leap year. 29 days in February instead of 28. What about future? Cal 2 using February, or we can just do it this way. Let's do 2032, which is also a leap year. 29 days in February. Does it always print the same calendar? Absolutely not. Upper arrow key, changing that to 2031. That only has 28 days. But more importantly, you can run calendars like this, and you can have them outputted to a file. To output this one is very simple. Upper arrow key, it's listing my last command, space, that symbol, and I'll put in FEB 2031 for the file name. But this time I'm going to use TXT. and then I'm going to find it in your file manager. It's right here. I just generated that. And then I can look at it and also use Control P to print if I desire to do that. Again, calendar. So these commands are very simple to use. Redirecting these things into text files or docs or just different formats is done with that symbol right there. Now let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting at the same time, because inevitably somebody will make this mistake. If I type in the word cal, and let's do a year of 2027. All right, a couple of years from now. I want the full year. And I want to redirect that to a file called 2027.doc or .txt, whatever. Now, I'm going to get an error on this command. It says bad file descriptor. Born again shell 2027 bad file descriptor. So bash is what born again shell stands for, but the command cal space 2027 was okay, but since I put the symbol right next to the 2027, that was a failure. I can fix this though rather easily instead of retyping. Upper arrow key, take your left arrow key and put it right over that symbol and hit the space bar once. Then hit enter. Now that file has been generated. I'll find it for you. So 2027. Isn't that the name of the file I just created? Yes. That was the complete year of 2027. Control A. It's still 10. So let's make that a 12 to make it a little bit bigger. Control P. I could print that if I'd like. But again, this is not this year and it's not next year. It's the following year. So you can do this with all kinds of calendars and have all kinds of fun, redirecting output from your terminal box into files like this. It doesn't matter if it's doc or txt. It's still the same data. If you want me to prove that, I'll make another one of these. Actually, I'll minimize that first. Upper arrow key, I'm changing the tail end to txt. That's still valid. So the 2027 doc and the 2027 text are the same size actually. But this is a text file. Opens with a text editor, not Libre. In this case, Xed. If I have other text editors, I can certainly open that with others. I have Kate also. In either case, I have a printing option that I could exercise. But this is the full year. In here earlier when I was playing with these, and these have images already because you can see the sizes of them. So February of 2026 happened to have a mushroom image. But this is also when you're trying to create the poor man's calendar. And again, you can 3-hole punch this or just staple them if you make 12 of these with different pictures on them. You can put lines in here if you like. You can actually move the calendar around. You can move the picture around or not even use the picture and just make a big old calendar out of it. And then put some space in here for some lines to write with. All right, or take a pair of scissors and cut this paper a little bit shorter. There's lots of ways to do this with. Just remember, that little symbol redirects the command. And in this case, you can choose txt or doc, for instance, and it will generate those files. Just don't forget there's a space in here. So, one more reminder. You can do 3 months. You can do a single month. You can do the whole year. Just as an example. And then you can redirect every one of those calendars directly into a file of your name choice. Whatever you want to call it. Just remember this, if you keep using the same name, it will continually replace the file. My suggestion after you do maybe 12 of these type of things is to create a folder and then move all 12 of them in there, then print all 12, staple them, clip them together or whatever, and then either save it for the future or back it up somewhere. You can always generate any of these calendars for any year. That includes the past and the future. Thank you for watching.